You're right. We're right. So enough with the weather and all that crap. Reason why we got you here today is you have some Kickstarters and you have a book. Let me just say this first, and I mean this with absolutely all honesty. I have nothing but respect for what you're doing. Okay. And I don't say that often. That's not something I'm saying just to, like, because you're on my show. But
Mm.
I'm saying it because, as we read these comics coming out, and you're reading this stuff, and you're just thinking to yourself, man, I know I could do better, man. Like, I know in my head I could do better than this garbage. It's like the whole idea when we were kids of these comic books just flowing together from one story to the next, the character representing a certain type of character from the beginning, and going through his hero's journey and getting to the end of that hero's journey. It seems like that's been taken out of comics in a way. And
Yeah.
so to see somebody like yourself put it together, it's not like, I mean, let's get into your history. Okay. What
Okay.
brought you to this point to where you decided to make your own comic?
Well, I got a job back in the end of 2018. I got a job at a comic store out here, and up until that point, I was out of comics for, like, God, I don't know, 15, 20 years or something. So I stopped collecting comics when I was like 13 or 14 when I started going to high school, I think. And but still loved all the characters and the stories, the lore, and everything about it. Just, got away from that, got more into other stuff, and but when I got that
Girls,
job,
right?
though, yeah, more or less, partying and girls and all
Right,
that
right.
stuff.
Yeah.
At any rate, got that job, and it re-sparked, it rekindled that flame for comic books, and I was real passionate about it, and was doing real good there. And I eventually got fired. I was fucking around still, and long story short, I got let go. But the really cool part is that it got me into D&D, also Dungeons and Dragons. For anybody that doesn't know what D&D stands for, and I still play that to this day with a group of people, and it's a lot of fun, man. And it really helped out, and put me on
Let me
this
ask you a question
path.
about that.
Sure.
Let me ask you a question about that, because I kind of get this vibe from you that maybe you kind of come from the same state of mind that I came through. It's like comics were cool until they weren't cool. And when they stop being cool, you kind of put to the side and you do other things, like you were saying, fucking around. That's what I did. A lot of fucking around, a lot of stupid things, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fighting, a lot of whatever, nonsense. And then
Mm-hmm.
you get done with that and you get a little older and you start looking back on your past and you start doing things. I always saw these kids playing D&D and thought to myself, they always look like they're having so much fun doing it. But I was so terrified, not terrified. I felt like it was too nerdy. I felt like that was
Yeah.
the next level of nerdum, and like I
Mm-hmm.
might be here, but that's like up here, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like it. But so tell me how you took that step into getting to that nerdum, to reach that,
Well, so
to try
it's
it.
kind of it's I had an advantage in this in the fact in the way that I was working at the Dragon's Lair, and they were big proponents and supporters of that game. And they had all the merchandise. They had gaming tables, and you can go in there and play games on certain nights of the week. They rotate that, but they've always got extra space dedicated for D&D. That's where all the players, most of the players that come out on game nights are looking for some kind of tabletop role playing game, which is what that's called. And but yeah, being already in that indoctrinate, kind of adapted to that environment, and seeing what it is and how it works, and that helped me. That kind of softened the blow a little bit. I was already kind of ready to learn because I wanted to help further myself at work. I wanted to know all this stuff and be able to help people and sell merchandise and do good. And so, but that brought me in, and then also an old friend of mine called me up and said, "Hey, we're putting a group together. I know you got that new job at Dragon's Lair, yada yada yada. Do you want to come play?" And it was at another gaming shop in the back room of their gaming shop, and we could take beer and have it, and we'd order food, and we can cuss and yell and have as much fun as we want to back there. And we did. Believe me, I was still drinking pretty heavily back then, and I rarely drink now, and but I used to go pretty hard back then, and man, I get hammered back there. We'd have a lot of fun, man, just going nuts. But yeah, so you just roll the dice, and then you just let it. That determines. There's the dungeon master. He's the one that controls the game, the flow of it. And that all determines, and you roll the dice though, and it determines basically what happens. I want to do this. And then he says, okay, well, roll this, and then see what happens. And if you roll really high and good, then you might let it happen, and if you don't roll very good, something bad might happen. And then again, you can be as comical with it and all as you want to. And it helped me though. It helped me really with writing with comic books. It was because this was the part of the evolutionary process. Dungeons and Dragons has been very much involved in all of that. So after I got let go from there, I didn't get into comics or anything else. I did do D&D, but nothing comic related for like 6 months. And then just one day, I was just like, you know what? I can't stay away from this shit any longer. And so I started getting back into the books, and I got online. I got on Facebook, and I realized, fuck, man, comic books are just as big as ever. Like, there's no wizard price guide anymore. You go on eBay and you look at sold listings versus asking prices, and you can sell them all day long and auction them. And I got into that part of it, and I had a couple of really nice books, really nice keys, like First Miles Morales. I had just gotten it off layaway at Bedrock City Comics Shop, this place over here. I put it on layaway and it cost $75, and it took me like a month and a half. It took me like a month and a half to pay for it because I was like delivering Chinese food, And but I finally got it, and it was still in the store when it was going up, when it was spiking, and it was just about to pay it off. So I walked out of there with it, and man, it was such a great feeling. But yeah, so I sold.
You paid $75 for that book. That's now,
and then,
what is it, like 20,000, 30,000, some crazy amount.
It's a great book. But I used that money to kind of get going into the selling side of comic books. And then that's when I got on Facebook, and I became more visible on there. Started off in one big comic book group, and then branched out and started my own little group and brought over people that I have sold to and befriended over the years. Some of them have been with me since like before, right around COVID. I started all this around COVID time. And people were just really supportive, and the community I was becoming a part of that more and more. And then finally one day, one guy that I was selling books to, we were talking, and we just kind of came up with the idea together, like, should we want to do a comic book? And he was like, yeah, I'll do. And so he did a cover kind of loosely based off, I think, of something I asked him to do. And then, or he might've just come up with something entirely on his own. I forget. Either way, it was cool. It was like this dude sitting at a desk smoking a cigarette, and he's got glasses on. He looks real mysterious and kind of dark, and he's in the shadows and stuff. And so we kind of took it and ran with it. And one thing led to another, and it was a really hard learning process for me. You know what I mean? Because it was trial by fire. I didn't realize what I was getting into. You know what I mean? Not at all.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But yeah,
so you step up there. You're deciding at this point, I'm gonna try it, man. I'm gonna go at it 100%.
Right.
What's the first steps you started taking to get into that? Because I've heard so many people that get to this point that you're at right now that you're talking about, and say, it's too much money, it's too much this, it's too much that, I don't have that. But you have the books out now, so I know that you've come across the tunnel. So tell me what it took for you mentally, what it took for you financially to like get that book into paper, into people's hands.
It took a lot of everything, you know what I mean? Like, it's financially first, we'll attack that. Like, it's not cheap, you know what I mean? Like, and so the purpose of a Kickstarter, for me at least, it's been my experience that's how I can help. That's how I can generate the money to pay for the art fees, and printing and shipping. Ideally, like in a perfect world, you have enough people to come out, show enough support to where the project is funded. And then it also can maybe put some little money in your pocket, but most importantly, that you don't have to really spend a whole lot of money to make it happen. And everybody wins, the artist is paid. The fandom, the readers, your friends and family, and your whole support network, they're satisfied because the book can get done, and you got the money. And but it's imposing, you know what I mean, to look at that Kickstarter page and be like, to click the button, to start it and to really get going. And especially if you're asking for an unrealistic amount of money, but that's subjective though. But I mean, like, trying to get a couple of $1,000s from people is not easy. You know what I mean? It may sound like it, but it's really not. So, you can have something really great to offer them. And nowadays people's attention span is so short. It would blow your mind to know like the actual amount of seconds that people's attention span has been dropped to, I think. But at any rate, my point is if you can't hold their attention very long, you know what I mean? You got to get their attention really quick. And And so
I see it
yeah, I
now.
mean,
Now your book, the book that you created, I'm starting to see it now. Like I see the steps you took in order to keep people engaged.
mhm.
That was a good idea.
But yeah, to get it going though, I just kind of had to. You just got to take that. You got to make that choice. Like you just got to decide to get out there and look at it from the perspective of, well, if it doesn't land, if people don't really respond to it very well, then who cares? I did something that I wanted to do. I accomplished that, and just walk away from it. It's no big deal. You know what I mean? So with that said, there's no real risk involved for anybody that wants to get out there and try it. As long as you have the money and you're not like breaking your neck or committing crimes to get the money to do your comic book. So
Right,
then
right,
you're
right.
good. Like, and so, but yeah, comic book
Okay.
costs just on average on the low end. Like if you want some good colored interior pages or a cover, say, you can kind of put this in the same price range. You need about $100 for a one page. And the average
Wow.
comic book is about 24. It's 24 pages usually, and you've got a couple of cover options you need. Like if you're going to kickstart one, you want to have at least 2, 3, maybe 4 cover options and different price ranges or special details about them, like metal or hollow chrome or
Right,
virgin
right,
something something or other, whatever the hell you want. And
right.
but yeah, so that you just going into making a comic book, if you're not skilled enough to illustrate it yourself, and you pay somebody, you're looking at like $2,600 just off the bat before you even get into anything else, just for the artwork. So
Wow.
we don't have to
That's
go
it.
any.
That's you put together the story, you give it to an artist, he takes the story you gave him and put it on art on pages, right? And
Sort of.
that's the 2,400. Is that how that worked? Or
Yeah, but I yeah, exactly. I give them like a really loose storyboarded kind of script with like the descriptive narrative is explaining what's happening with these little stick figures that I draw when I create the panels and stuff. I draw all those out and I'll give them to them 6 pages at a time. But yeah, each one of those would be $100, give or take. A lot of artists nowadays, the rates are going up. So I don't know. I can't, nobody hold me to that, because there's also other
right.
people that will come in and do it for cheaper. Most people that do it for cheaper though, they're only going to ink it and pencil it. They're not pencil it and ink it. They're not going to do the color. So color, you got to pay somebody else to do that, and it's like 30, 40, $50 a page. So that
Wow, wow. And then how about lettering and all that kind of
yes.
stuff too?
So that's a fun point of discussion. Like, so the when Awful Thoughts first came out, kind of circling back to the beginning of our conversation, Trey, that one of the artists that was helping me at the time, he said, "You're gonna have to figure out how to letter this, because I'm not doing that shit. I don't know how to do it or anything. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna mess with it. I'll draw for you as best I can." But
He's new at comics, right? Like this is his first comic he's ever
yeah,
done, right?
him and my buddy Tom Cuthbert, they're both good friends. And they work at a tattoo shop together. And so that's
That's pretty
their
cool.
trade is tattooing first. And I don't know if Trey is doing anything now, or if Tom is. But I did hear from somebody today about maybe taking on their project, like I did with Razor Wire McGuire. That's the one that just got funded on Kickstarter. That's the first book that I didn't have anything to do with the creative process. I just helped them
Mm.
get it going. I did the Kickstarter page, the graphics, the promotions, launched it, raised the funds, and now I'm going to help him. Now I'm going to get it printed, and I'll package it and ship everything out, fulfill all the rewards, and we'll see how it goes. And if he can keep it going and fund on the second one, I'm going to take that on too. But yeah, a new guy just messaged me and asking about doing that. And shit, I lost my train of thought. I was saying,
No, you're fine. You're explaining. You're going over the story of how you created these books. Lettering is what we were going at. Is how you letter
yeah.
the pages.
That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, but Tom and Trey were saying you got to figure it out, and so I did. But the first few books I did, like compared to what I do now, and even what I do now is not like cutting edge, state of the art, super professional, but it's good enough. You know what I mean? It looks nice, it presents well, and I've learned
I,
tips from some guys that actually are professionals over the last year or two on Facebook and different groups I'm in and stuff, and they've helped me a lot too with learning how how it all works, how it's supposed to work together when it comes to the letters. And so, I taught myself how to do all that. And so I can save a lot of money and I get a lot of creative control over the book and how it winds up looking. And that's a double-edged sword though, because not only do I have that luxury, but also being the perfectionist sort of person I am. That the anal retentive side of me, I guess is what it's called. I'm always changing shit. Like I'll go back all the time, like 1,000 drafts, like, and move this around and move that bubble, move that letter one space down on Photoshop, and it's a huge pain in the ass sometimes. But it's a labor of love too, though. You know, it's when I
Right.
look back on it, I don't want to be able to say I left anything on the table. I want to say, be able to say this is my, and I haven't quite got there yet on any, to be honest, on any of the books I've printed. But I'm getting
So
there.
you don't feel like you put out exactly what you wanted, or you feel like it just wasn't quite there yet in your mind? Because
Yeah,
personally,
a
I
little bit.
looked at that book and it looked pretty damn professional in my eye. I mean,
Which one
honestly,
did you?
to be
Which
honest
one?
with you,
Which one did you
I
get?
looked at awful.
Yeah,
I looked at awful thing, awful
awful
and
thoughts.
bad brain, awful
So,
thoughts and bad
oh, that was,
brain.
yeah. That's
Is
just the
that is
code
it?
name for it on the digital. That's just
Oh,
the
my
little
bad.
name
Okay,
for it. It's
my bad.
awful
All right,
thoughts was, yeah, the anthology, the horror anthology.
all right. And then there was the other one. Yeah, there was the anthology, and then there was
Oh, did you
the
get
one that was
Roseville
a
too?
little bit darker, a little bit like watercolor kind of
Yeah, Roseville.
look to it. Rose gold. Yeah, that's it. That's it
Yeah,
right there.
that's my big book that
Yeah.
I'm really proud of. The most proud of. It's the most recent endeavor that I've taken on, and uh Aaron Moran, he's a great guy. He's in the UK, and this is his first American published comic book, and we're both really excited about it. And he's been very helpful and generous with how we're doing the art situation. Speaking of money and stuff, so um we're gonna see how I'm about to launch number 2 pretty soon. That's gonna be the next thing that I do. But I have a couple of previous, obligations I need to take care of first. The Razor Wire McGuire book I just mentioned, and then I have a sci-fi book that's been delayed forever, but it's finally here almost, and I'm lettering it right now, and that I need to
Is
get
it the
that
End of
printed.
Man book?
Yeah, End of
End of
Man
Man
number
book?
1. So, and again, that's another
It
one we're
looks
going to see
cool.
how we'll
Yeah.
see how it does, and if people respond well to it, then I'll look. I'm gonna more than likely I'll move on with the second issue. But for now, I'm just kind of playing it by ear and focusing on one thing at a time because I dug myself a hole. When I first got started with all this, I got really excited because Awful Thoughts went crazy. I had a DMX hip hop
Mm.
homage cover that Trey did, and it was sick, man. And it was
Was it?
real. Everything went really well with that project, and so I got kind of like too big for my britches, I guess you could say, and I just started spreading out in way too many directions, way too fast, and it kind of backfired. And so, but I'm still here in spite of that, and the network is still large, the fan base is still big, and everybody's real supportive and just wants to see me do well. And I'm hoping I don't want to let anybody down, So I'm just hoping that I can come
Oh,
through
I
and
get it.
deliver on everything that I have on my plate right now.
So once you discovered a little bit of this is kind of the thing that I see happen in professional comics, especially, is it seems like they get a little bit of notoriety from a book, from a story, from an accolade, something that they created, that they wrote, right? And then they get the feedback. They get the feedback, and then it seems like once they get the feedback, either A, they go 100 times the same direction, but harder. Like, hey, we don't like this character and that character. Like, oh, you don't like them? Well, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna put them in every book, 100 times, and they push it. Or they get lost. It seems like they're so worried about what people are thinking or saying about their book that they're moving this way, moving that way, instead of just staying focused on their idea and going forward. Is that something that you've come across, or does that feel like that's happening now, or
Um,
what
no,
do you
there's
think?
don't get me wrong. There's plenty of times when confidence is not there like it should be or could be, And I'm of the belief that as long as I stay on my trajectory and I do right, by everybody around me and stuff, that everything else will fall into place. In any capacity, or any area of my life or whatever. I got to do that though. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm myself up to shit happening, and then I got to respond and onto that, and then that, it's kind of like a downward
Right.
spiral if you let it get to that.
Sure.
And so just stay on top and
Do-
keep grinding and keep working hard. And then I feel like I'm confident in what in my storytelling and also the pacing of the stories and just in the content and the product that I can deliver it's evolved over time, and I think it's at a place now where it's good enough that people would get on board. They just need to get out there to enough people. So that's what conventions are for, and that's what being all over Facebook selling comics and cleaning and pressing them is for. And that's my goal, is to just continue to grow and expand, and hopefully be able to do this for like full time for a living one day. That'd be great.
For sure. And I'll tell you what, um, as you can see, you can't really see, but I am a Wednesday warrior at this point. I kind of went through the same trajectory you went. I was into comics young, got out of it. I'm older now. I'm a dad, and I can afford to go spend the money on crap. And I go and I do it. I spend money on books. I read them. And out of the stack of Marvel, out of the stack of DC, out of the stack of, um, uh, you know, oddity books or image books and all the other stuff, I thought about your book quite a bit. Out of all
Thanks,
these
man.
books that I had going through my head, your book actually kind of stood out. And I think one of the big reasons it stood out, because it feels like you're not trying to impress anybody. You're just going to tell your story the way you like to tell your story. And that's something that I can get behind, get behind that. And that's something I would love to do myself. So I think that is hits a high hat with a lot of people when people are able to just tell their stories. And they're pretty damn dark, man. But they're not dark to the point where you're like, oh my God, like I don't want to look at this again. I remember the first story on what was it, awful thoughts. Sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
Awful thoughts was when they had the girl with the breastfeeding all the kids.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was perfect, man. That was perfect though, but that was good because it gave you this like feeling, right? It gave you like this sense of something, what's going on. It gave you that feeling, and there's just books try to either dialogue you to death or they try to hit you over the head with an idea. And I think that a fun, good story that's just kind of flowing from one story to the next. It's fun to read.
I grew up with horror and R-rated movies and blood and guts and all that and video games from a real real early age, and I just always loved it. You can get away with more stuff in horror and the R-rated stuff. You can just kind of cut loose and do more. You know what I mean? And they've tried to make it where that's like that for PG-13, but it's just not quite there for whatever reason. I don't know the ins and outs of all that, but at any rate, storytelling in comic books is kind of like in the same way. Like horror, you can just kind of drop it all and just go hard. You know what I mean? You just I don't know what the phrase I'm looking for, but you know what I mean? You can just kind of cut loose.
It's only up by your imagination. That's the only thing you're stopped by on a comic book.
Right,
your
you're only
imagination.
restrained by that, the books, the Roseville draws heavy influence and inspiration from a variety of stories. You know what I mean? In movies and video games, and it's cool. It's just like my collective knowledge and all this stuff. It's just like this amalgamation that's all my own doing, like from my head, and it's been really fun to watch it kind of evolve and shape itself in a way. Like we mentioned organic earlier when we were talking, and that's exactly what I want these projects to feel like. I don't want them to feel forced or caged in or restrained by anything. You know what I mean? And I'm still finding my way. Like Awful Thoughts, a lot of that there's not a whole lot of writing in it. You know what I mean? But the story is there, the idea is there. You know what I mean? So hopefully the artist has done what I'd like them to do, and they're taking advantage of the descriptive narrative and making it, look how I'd like it to look. And so far they've done a great job. Tom over at Awful Thoughts and Aaron with Roseville, and now Mariano is coming in with End of Man, and I'm just really excited to see where I can go with it. But Roseville 2 is going to be a big test for me because I'm going to have the funding is going to need to be there, and and it's going to be more than I would like to have to feel comfortable with asking for a funding goal, not a lot of money, but more than I'm, so we'll see. I don't know and I really want that one to happen. I'm going to have to make it happen regardless because Aaron will need to be paid, so, but nevertheless, we'll cross those bridges when we get there, but I am excited. I've got the covers are ready for that one. It's got a badass wraparound Virgin cover. It's really cool and creepy. And there's a really dark like a variant cover. It's really cool. And cover A is really nice too. And it's I'm looking forward to it. He's supposed to be getting me the first 6 pages of art any day now, so I'll be able to look at it and see. And it's cool. It's been a few months since we had since we wrote that, since I did that story, at least a few months. And so it's cool to go back to that world now and to write a second issue. And I've done that before, obviously, with these other books, but this one is a little, like I said, this one's just a little different. It's, for me, it's hitting a little harder because this one is kind of like the first project where I've really just had complete creative freedom to just kind of do and tell it, do what I want and tell the story exactly how I want to. And other people have been involved throughout the process with other books, And so this one is just me and Aaron, and it's really cool. I'm excited.
Are there times that when you're thinking of the story and you're thinking of the book, are you also kind of concerned, like, can the artist do this? Like, do what I'm trying to have present? Like, does that come through your mind as you're creating the stories? Like, I don't know if I want to do this because like this artist might not be able to pull this off. Like, does that come through your?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And there are times, but I think a big part of making a good comic book or telling a good story, if you're working as a team with somebody else or multiple people, is communication and conveying your message, your point to your friend, your team, in a way that you guys can move, fluid, and you're flowing. And that's how all the best sports teams win championships, from knowing how to talk to each other and they got silent communication. They know body language and stuff. So when you develop that kind of friendship, relationship, whatever you want to call it, with an artist and vice versa with a writer, I think you can trust them a little more than maybe the average Joe or whatever. And that's what I've come to do, and what I've kind of had to do by necessity. But now more so than ever, I really trust these guys that I work with. And I don't know when the next time I'll bring in a new artist, but when I do, there's a little screening process, and you got to look at their portfolio, and then you got to take a risk though. You got to trust that this person's going to deliver what they say they can. And it's, I've met a lot and worked with a lot of different artists in the time frame that I've been doing this. And you get ups and downs, so. But
how do you decipher? Like, what is it as you're going through this? Is it kind of like a feeling that you get? Like, okay, I connect with this guy well. Let me say this, okay? When you decided you wanted to make your story, you already had artists kind of in your mind of who you wanted, or did you kind of put it out there and then as you're looking through their stuff, decide, this guy looks kind of cool? Because I've seen that online. Like, hey, artists, we're all these artists that want to do comic books. Check out our stuff. This and this. So you start, going through them, and that's got to be a decision that it could be even scamming you.
Right,
you never know.
So with Awful Thoughts, with the first project, I had Trey and his friend Tom. They came in and they were already there to do it. They wanted to work with me, and I wanted to work with them. We wanted to get it done, so we got it done. And Trey left the project after the first one. There's like creative differences and stuff, and so, but Tom stuck around to do the interiors, and so Tom was in place, and so that Awful Thoughts never really needed anybody online other than what I already had, and he's done great, and we've done other projects together too, and then so after that, I was working with somebody else to help them get their book going, and we had to go find somebody on Facebook, and we found a guy, and it was actually the first or second guy we found, and he was really good. You know what I mean? And he was sounded like he was capable of doing what we needed him to do. And so he worked out really well. That book ended up getting discontinued. There wasn't a huge demand. It was called Birds of a Feather. And I was like about
I have that written down here too. Birds of Feathers, the second book on here. So
it was a lot of fun, but the money just kind of wasn't there, and the demand really wasn't there. And I had a lot of other stuff going on too that I was more focused on, and so me and my partner, we just kind of went our separate ways, and he was satisfied with having the opportunity to do the project, and so we did, but at any rate, so yeah, I found his name was Ricardo Alves, and I found him on Facebook, just like that, like you mentioned earlier. You put a post up, and then people will respond like, man, they'll just like moths to a light, you know what I mean? And they'll message you, and they'll, hey, can I show you my portfolio? Hey, can I show you my portfolio? And like get a bunch of people. And so you don't even have to really do much beyond that. And then from there, you can look at it, the artwork. And like you said, though, there's always, they could be showing you somebody else's artwork. you don't know, you don't know these people. So it's a judgment call. And like you said, though, my gut will usually like something will kind of or push me in a certain direction. Sometimes I feel like, and like with Aaron, the final artist, it worked out real organically. Another friend of mine on Facebook who I've just met on there through the comic book community. My buddy Chris, he knew Aaron just from his friend network, like randomly friend accepted, and he's because he was an artist, I guess, or something, and he had a really cool picture. Like this pig man looking thing. He was really wicked looking, like dark and twisted. And I was like, man, I'd like to have him on a cover one day or something. And I wanted to use that one. And I saw it. So I friended Aaron and I asked Chris if what he would think about that and yada yada yada. And Chris was like, yeah, you should talk to him. So that's one thing led to another, and he let me borrow that cover to use for an Awful Thoughts issue back in the past. And then I asked him to do a Birds of a Feather cover when it was still going for the third issue, and it didn't quite come out. Like we were looking for a Dia de los Muertos, kind of like a Bruja type of like candy skull face painted carnival Day of the Dead type thing, and it just turned out to be something entirely different. But the blessing was that he not only did he do another one that was cool, that was really neat looking. That cover that we scrapped ended up becoming the inspiration for Roseville. So I saw that cover.
I was just going to say that. I think that's on the cover, right?
Yeah, I said that. And I said, you know what? How do
cover.
I turn this into a comic book, or how do I tell a story out of this? And so I just started looking at it. And then first off, I started with the town. You know what I mean? I wanted there to be the location, the scene, and that was just seemed perfect. There's a big old rose in the upper left hand corner, and so that was a pretty cool little part of the Roseville.
Go through it, man. That was gold right there. Give me that more of like what you got going on there. So you're looking at the cover, and you created this story based upon this cover.
Yeah.
This guy sent in.
Yep. More or less.
That's how the book started, just from that damn cover.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. I like that a lot. So now, do you have the full story fleshed out in your mind, or is it more like when the pages come in here, the story's going to change upon how the pages look?
Right. So that's what I was. Let's get back to that real quick about trusting the artist and stuff. So I trust them, and with all the other artists, with exception to Aaron, they usually will give you pencils and ask you, does this look okay? And then they'll ink it, and then it should be okay at that point. But you're gonna have issues from time to time, and that's when you can piss off an artist. You know what I mean? Once they've put the ink to that, and they can't take back what they've done. They're not going to want to go back and redo it. I don't blame them one bit. So you got to make sure, as the creator or the person that's paying for the artwork, that it looks good to you. Don't just say it to be saying it. You know what I mean? That's your chance right there. And so then that'll come back, and then you can kind of do the back and forth until that you get the fully colored finished product. Aaron, however he does his stuff, that mixed media he does like watercolor and the ink, and sometimes it'll look hyper real, and sometimes it'll look like it's just like scribbled on there. It's really crazy and surreal and strange and abstract, and I really like his style. And so when I saw that picture, it's the same thing. I was like, man, that's cool. And so I wanted to see if he could do a comic book, and sure enough, he already had a few projects that he had done, like a graphic novel adaptation of War of the Worlds and some other stuff. And
that's Roseville book, right? That's
that's the one. He's doing Roseville with me, and he's done all the covers so far. He's done every single piece of art pertaining to that project. I thought that's kind of.
He almost it looks like Dave McKean a little bit.
Yeah.
It kind of has a little look to it where it's at that hyper.
Right. With Aaron, when you mentioned earlier, like about envisioning the style of the project, and if that lends anything to the kind of artist you look for, and I should say yes, you should want to try to try to target artists that are good at what you're looking for in particular. And like some of them have multiple styles they can do. So at any rate, Aaron and the what was I saying? Shoot.
Well, so it's okay. I mean,
my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off. The art style is I was looking for something kind of like what he does. Like I don't know. Have you ever read Department of Truth?
Yes.
Book. That Martin Simmons, that interior art. It's real kind of just all over the place and crazy at times and stuff. And and then it draws
Yes.
itself
Yeah.
in, and then it kind of blows up again, and it's just it makes it hard to read, like to tell sometimes where it's going and stuff, and that can be a little
Right.
confusing. I don't try to
Well,
do that, but
Tynion has a tendency to write too damn much on the damn
yeah,
page anyway, so
and
that
that's
kind of
another
kills it a little
thing.
bit
Like
too. But
you
yeah,
said earlier about reading books and being a fan. First, for me, I don't like all the wordy shit. You know what I mean? I don't care if
I
it's the
do.
greatest thing
Yeah,
ever. You know, the biggest story arc of all time. I want to just let the art tell the story with your words being as like playing second fiddle almost. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid to admit that. But well, I mean, there's going to
no, I
be
love
work
that.
together 50-50. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time,
No,
people
it's
are getting comic books at least 50% of the reason is because they want to see artwork. You know what I mean? So let the artwork
I,
do its job.
I think you put it exactly as it is, because you don't go get a comic book to read a novel.
Right.
You know, you get a comic book to um, get a story told through pictures with some words kind of emphasizing what's going on. So if you have to tell me what's going on and you can't show me, then it's not going to be a good book, you
Yeah.
know? And I
Those
think you just put that was very perfect.
those little narrating boxes are very challenging all the time because it's difficult to not feel like you're railroading or like forcing a reader down a one-way street or babying them, like explaining it too much, like the such and such is doing this and now such and such is doing this, and if you have we as people, individuals, have a tendency to repeat the same kind of phrases and sayings and stuff, especially when you write. I think it's even more prevalent, and you kind of return to different phrases and the manner in which you write. I have to catch myself all the time. Like if I said something one way on this page 2, and then I say it again on page 6, and I'm like, man, I can't do that. Other people, they might be like, whatever, it's okay. But for me, like, it drives me nuts. Like with that book, for example, it's going to get a reprint because um, uh, the speech bubbles in the very beginning. If you don't, it's hard to tell in the digital copy because I was using that.
Mhm.
I wanted the digital copy to be perfect because that's something I needed to work on. So that one came
Right.
out awesome, but because of that, I trusted that the proof that the physical copy would be the same, and I didn't get a proof copy. And if you don't get a proof copy, then
Oh,
you're not going to be able to verify how the book is going to look. You're going to take them at their word.
that is
Everything's printed, and that's a cardinal sin for that. And but
I
I got
never
my
I
huh?
never would have thought of that. So I'm really glad that you're talking about that. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
I got in a
That's
hurry, and I trusted that it was okay, and I worked really hard on it. But when I got him back, the speech bubbles and the very first few pages, or on certain pages here and there, are too small. They're very difficult to read, and it
mm,
drives me crazy. And I know that if I'm having trouble reading it, then other people probably are too, because I have a really good vision, and
yeah.
so I want to fix that. That's a prime example of a small thing, but it's something that bothers me. And if it's hard to read for other people, then arguably it bothers them too. So people want to make
Yeah.
sure if they're buying something and supporting something, it needs to be perfect, in my opinion. So that's what I'm working towards.
Well, if it gets too hard to read, then you're taking your reader out of
Right.
the world that you're trying to create for them, you know. And like you said, a lot of the really good comic books, like really good comic books, the ones that we just, oh my god, all I mean, X-Men isn't the greatest idea of it because it does get fucking wordy,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Like he could definitely write in some X-Men, but the art is so good, and the characters, and the thing is also is that the way you present the world and everything that's connected to that world really shows how good that book is going to be from the get.
Mm.
Like when you look through your books, even though you tell a story on that awful thing, there's like a full story in like 3 pages,
Yeah.
2 pages,
6 pages.
but you get a feeling from beginning, middle, and end on every single one of those stories.
Mm.
And that's a lot of books that you read. You sell comics. The new stuff is not like that. They want to like 50-page word essay everything, on whatever, for whatever reason that they want to get to it, and then you're out of the world, and then it's not fun. It's not fun. I don't want to read it. I don't want to pay for the shit. It's not fun.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing a great job at that for sure.
Thanks,
So
man.
you described something that made, like, it really kind of touched on my thoughts too. Is that when I'm trying to write too. I think you get to the point now, especially right now. It seems like it's so damn necessary for people to like step up and start writing good stories, you know? So I started writing, and as you're writing, you catch those things. You're like, fuck, man, I just said that.
Yeah.
I just said that. I said it that way before that. Why am I saying it again? I'm talking about a different character. How do I change his voice? So what kind of tricks of the trade have you learned up to this process? You have how many books have you put out? Like how many stories?
Oh man. Well, let's see. I'll go all the way back. So Awful Thoughts is the first one. Awful Thoughts though has undergone some changes. It started off with an overarching narrative about a girl that finds this book, and inside the book are these stories that she reads. And she's like, when she opens the book, she gets to see these stories that she's reading, and it was way too experimental. Like I got 3 issues into it, and I was just like, you know what? I don't know where the fuck this is going or how to do it. I knew
Too much.
I knew where it was going. I mean, I had an end for it, but I didn't know how to get there in the next 3 issues. It was just too confused. I figured people would get too lost in it because if I was having trouble explaining it, I was like, man, for my first project, that's not something. It was too ambitious. You know what I mean? And it just
I do.
it deviated from
Yeah.
what I initially set out to do. Was like a Tales from the Crypt or a Creep Show or Tales from the Dark Side or one of these badass anthology type stories. You know, Ice Cream Man's out now, and
That's exactly. I was going to say that. That's exactly what I thought it was. Ice Cream Man.
the
When I
Silver
read it, I was like,
Coin,
this
and
is yeah.
there's a bunch
Silver
of good
Coin, yep.
anthologies. The Electric Black, and I got into reading all those real heavy though when I was back into the comic books real tough, and I was speculating, and I'd be at the shops every week. I'd be there especially on Wednesdays, you know, spending money and talking to people, having a good time, getting to know the community and stuff. So
Right.
but yeah, those stories though, they're a lot of fun to tell if you can frame them right and get, you know, 6 pages. Like you said, it doesn't leave you a lot of room to work with. So I think doing that helped me get going. So here's my point though. I'm sorry, I did remember this time. So we did Awful Thoughts, and it ended up being 3 issues, and then it got rebooted into a big oversized one-shot anthology, which is what it is now. And it's just a condensed version of the 6 best stories that were in the first 3 issues. And then there's no overarching narrative about a girl in a box. It's just 6 bang, bang, shocking little quick hits,
Nice.
you know, and it's a lot of fun. So
Cut the fat.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. So it's quick read though, but it's just some cool stuff in there. So when I get more copies and stuff printed, I'm going to be sure to promote that, and you can look out for it and all that. And so then after Awful Thoughts, I got a deal to do a crypto coin video game concept thing that these guys were working on. Crypto was real big at the time, and they brought me and Tom in to do these little short stories and another like type of anthology with like vampire hunting characters and help them world build with this little world. And you were gonna you get the coin, and then you can go and play the game and unlock stuff or something. I didn't really understand how it worked, but I understood the money. You know what I mean? Like they definitely paid well,
Right.
and it was a cool opportunity. And
This was a
so
company.
I
A
didn't.
company came to you after they read yours.
Yeah, they were called Helsing. I don't know if they're even active now still, because once after I did 3 of these 6-page stories, the plan was to try to get 4 and turn it in and print it. You know what I mean, into a volume, and then share the profits with this company. And they were called Helsing, and I just dealt with one guy. He would pay me and all that, and then I would present it to them and show them the progress, and they seemed to like it all, and we got to do 3 of them. That never got printed though. So we're at Awful Thoughts, right? Like I've done 4 of those different types of books have been printed for Awful Thoughts. Birds of a Feather got printed. There were 3 of those issues. And then Roseville #1 got printed. #2 is going to go to Kickstarter next. Now we're printing Razor Wire McGuire will be printed next. And then End of Man will be printed after that. So I guess that's 5 or something, I think, at this point. And it's been a lot of fun though, man. The anthologies though, they really help kind of jumpstart everything and teach me how to tell a really quick story. Because if you can tell a really quick one and you can use the panels right, and the art, you work with the artist, then you can tell a long one, or you can draw it out longer. You just need a little gut punches sometimes. You don't have to get into too much detail, because it takes, like you said, it takes the fun out of it. Let the viewer look at the art and see for themselves, try to visualize, and then try to imagine based on what they've read what's going on here. Let them make that decision. It's a challenge though. As a writer, any writer would attest, man. It's not easy. As I make it sound. Trust me, it's a pain in the ass trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that you have a lot of passion in it, and you kind of feel that, and that I think that'll take you far. I really hope it does. Like I really hope that you get to the levels you want to go to, because it just I like that. I like the idea of somebody saying, I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna fucking do it. And then you get out there and you do it, and then you put your heart out there, and somebody looks at it and says, you know what? I appreciate that. I like that story, and you keep going with it. And I really hope that's where it
You
goes.
just thanks, man.
Now, what
No, go ahead. It's okay.
what? No, I was just gonna ask a couple things. I know it's getting kind of late. I don't want to hold you all
It's okay.
night, but what is it that you feel was? I mean, besides learning that you need to write the full stories through anthologies, like the anthologies kind of woke you up to how to write, right? Kind of
Yeah.
ABC it, right?
Right.
What else was a big trick to get yourself um faster at creating the stories, or like what was the lesson you learned through this that you were like, damn it, if I would have known that on page one, my life would have been easier?
Um, I think really for me the only thing would be when I edit and I letter the pages. I open up the page in Adobe Photoshop and then I go to town. You know what I mean? And there's plenty of other ways to do it, especially nowadays with software and AI and stuff. I'll bet they've got crazy things that I don't even know about. But I like what I have. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, type of thing. You know, and it
Say that
seems to
again.
work
Say
well.
that
Like
one more time. How do you do it? You do it on Adobe? Is that what you
yeah,
said?
I have a Adobe Photoshop, you know, and I open up the image there and I get it to the right size, and then from there I can add my letters, and I do all that digitally. I have a speech bubble font package that I purchased that has a variety of different speech bubbles, and then I also have the same thing with fonts. I've got God knows how many fonts, and I can go through there just like a graphic designer would and kind of figure out which one works the best. But when I'm writing the story and I'm lettering it, that's all improvised on the fly. I did the storyboards. I know what the characters are supposed to be doing, so I just have to figure out what they're saying. And sometimes they'll say this and it won't sound right, and I'll go back and change it, and they'll say that. Sometimes they won't say anything at all, or the speech bubble needs to be moved over a little bit out of the way, you know, and down and to the right. And it's a big undertaking, but it's got its rewards though, man. Like now, for example, with the Roseville project and Awful Thoughts, those are both lettered the same way, pretty much around the same time period. Not just a few months ago, you know. So that's the most current where I'm at now. And as you know, you can see it looks pretty good, right? I would say,
I
especially
thought it was
compared to
good.
how
Yeah.
the old stuff used to look. It was a lot different. So, and I'm getting better all the time. You gotta learn little techniques and stuff. And I don't know if man, my bad. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
No,
Oh,
you absolutely did. I mean, I think you just got. I'm just the idea of you creating books. The process of you doing it is very fascinating. It's and I think it's a lot. It's very fascinating to a lot of people. I think a lot of people wonder how to do it, and to them, sometimes it seems like it's easy, and sometimes it seems like it's impossible. You get people from like Alan Moore. Alan Moore creates stories that, like, oh my god, how the hell is this? Like, how does he have this character? Like, where the hell did he think of this?
hmm.
Just completely out of nowhere, right? Like, what. And then you have characters. You see stories like, I don't know, Tom King, where it's like, really, like, what? You couldn't see that any way different. Like, that was really the way this story had to go. Like, and then they don't get the character themselves. So, like, they don't want to like envision that character as what we've all envisioned that character to be our entire lives. Now they want to change them just because, that I don't like. But as you're seeing these stories, you think to yourself, I could do that easily. But as you're saying, it's not as easy as it looks, right?
There is definitely yeah, it's definitely a process for sure. But anybody, I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And just like I said, you got to have the money. And if you can't get the support from Kickstarter, GoFundMe, Indiegogo, any of those platforms, then you have to shell out that money yourself, and hopefully you can make it up on the back end. But that involves selling copies, and you can't just go on the internet, you know, and do it as easy as it may seem. You know, I mean, you can put them nowadays. Though you do have plenty of opportunity. That's where I was going to say earlier. A guy like me, or you or anybody else nowadays has a really good chance of getting out there and succeeding with all of the resources that we have digitally. You know what I mean? Like being, even though it's really hard, just as hard as it's ever been to win the popularity game or whatever you want to call it, the opportunity is there much more than it's ever been. We can go on the internet and see, people can see us, and we can be visible and on, multiple social medias at once, and you're connected to millions of people, like never before. And used to, you got to call somebody and be like, hey, where's such and such at, or yada yada yada, and I'm giving away my age there, with pagers and stuff. So but at any rate, man, like it's anybody, you just have to get out there and let people see what you're doing. And most importantly, you better be, you better be ready to take some criticism. You know what I mean? And look at it as being constructive. Sorry, I got something in my throat. But yeah, you got to be willing to take constructive criticism and see and look at your stuff. Be gut level honest with yourself. You know what I mean? And is this good enough? Awesome. Is this where this needs to be? Did I do this right? Did I do that right? And you might have to ask yourself 100 times and think that you're losing your mind, but that's what it takes. And it really is just a lot of dedication and commitment. And you know what I mean? Like I've just tried to keep building each time. I've had my share of setbacks, but hopefully moving forward, those will all be curbed, and I can just have this clear path to the basket. You know what I mean? Hopefully so. We'll see.
For sure. Well, Jeofrey, where could people find you? Where could they get this book? That, let me tell you, I'm going to do a review and probably at the end of this week it'll come out also.
Sweet.
On the books that you sent me, because I think that they're worthy definitely of me doing that, and I absolutely hope that I can get some more attention on your books from doing this interview. But great information, man. Like, I absolutely love everything you had to say. Where can people buy this book? How could they get their hands on it? And where can they find you personally to, say what's up?
So again, I live in Houston. If anybody's ever out here or anything, holler at me anytime. I clean and press comic books. Again, let me reiterate. So I mean, I'm out there in the streets messing with, dealing with other people and messing with their books and stuff. So I'm usually in and out of different shops, but the one I'm most frequent at is Bedrock City on 1960. So other than that, though, I'm going to be doing what am I doing? In December, there's a really cool IndieCon thing coming up where it's just indie creators and their projects as vendors, and then people can come out and see all of the independent creators like myself and like you'll become eventually. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun, because at other cons I've done, like I did the Houston Horror Film Festival recently back in August, and it was badass, but there were a lot of people there. I did really well. But not hardly anybody is there for comic books. So I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs for a lot of the time. And even though I got to see people and talk to the people next to me and stuff and meet them, it's not everybody. See, and for the Indie Fest, everybody's should be coming for supporting indie artists. So it's that one sounds really exciting. It'll be the first time I've done that one. And that'll be in December. I wish I had a date. I can't remember. I'm the worst at remembering stuff. And but after
it's okay. That, I'm sure it's online. You said it was Indie Fest. Yeah, and that's in Houston, correct?
Yeah, and then also
now, what's your Facebook stuff? How could they get the book? All those kinds of things.
Sure. So kingdomcomics.com is the website. It's undergoing a kind of like a renovation process right now, though. You should be able to order one of them from there, though. And other than that, if you want to read, you can. I shouldn't be saying this, but technically it doesn't matter because it's on there anyways. But nerdanatics.com, you can read both of them, Awful Thoughts and Roseville #1, I believe. They're both on there. You can read them for free, I think.
Nerd and Addicts? Is that what you said?
Nerd and Addicts. It's NERDANATIX, I believe I spelled that right. nerdanatics.com. And yeah, you can go on there. They have it's cool. They have they do all indie creators and artists, and they have like a top 15 comic books of the week stuff that they're with the people that go on there and read the books on there. They can based on how many people have viewed your book, I think, and then it goes into a bracket, and then like process of elimination, and there's a winner at the end of the month or however that works. And it's fun though, man.
Pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I haven't. Yeah.
It's another way to be visible. But if you do want to purchase a book, And again, I don't have a whole lot right now. I think I'm in the process of reprinting everything, and I'm going to do some new covers as well as the older ones. I mean, the traditional ones. But I'm going to add some new spice, some new flavor in there when I make these minor adjustments. And so those will be available on down the line a little bit. But however, if I believe though, if you do go on kingdomcomics.com, you should be able to get a copy of either one of those. So you can email me,
And they're,
or
you
you
know,
can.
they're going for like $8, $8 for a
Yeah.
comic book. That's, you know, they can't beat that.
So, I'm happy to sign them for free. Also I was going to say, for social media, basically anything Kingdom Comics. You got Instagram is at Kingdom Comics, and I'm not using Twitter anymore recently. I've just kind of gotten away from it. But Facebook, I'm on all the time, and I'm on Jeofrey Cotton. If you can, do you have anything written down where you could leave a note for or people can see how to spell my name or something?
Sure, I'll definitely connect all of your
Cool, yeah,
website. I'll connect your Facebook page,
sweet.
all that stuff on the bottom
I, I
of the
wish I had
YouTube, whatever
I
it
wish
is.
I had a Kickstarter going right now so everybody could check it out and see what's going on and stuff, But the Razor
So
Wire,
you're clear on the Kickstarters then? Yeah,
yeah,
I seen
nothing
it
right,
was paid off for the one, but
yeah, nothing right now. I just got paid. We just got paid for the Razor Wire story, so I'm putting together this cool little fan club list for the inside of the back cover. I think it's where it's going, and it's basically a dedication, a thank you page to all the people that backed the project. And there was an option for $2 to get your name on the list. And but basically,
oh, cool.
if you got any tier, you know what I mean, like from the $2 one all the way up to like the $50 one or whatever it was, anybody that got that in on that, I'm going to put their name on there on inside the book. So that'll be cool. I'm excited to see how that book turns out and what people think about it. Because Steven and Jordan and those guys, they did a great job. So I'm excited.
For sure. Joffrey, man, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. I hope nothing but the success in the future. I hope more people step up and make comics like you are. And thank you so much, friend. It's been great.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
man. Appreciate it having me on, man.
Oh, anytime, buddy. Anytime. Have a good day. Good night. Bye bye.